again, and happy Friday to all the listeners out there. We are back with another episode of Sideways Rain. I'm your host, Chris, alongside with JR. Super excited to bring you all another guest that's going to talk about his storm, his umbrella, and his clear skies. JR, I'm super excited about today's episode.
Yeah, we're going to learn about the business Motion Flix. We'll introduce Anthony in a couple of seconds here, but basically Anthony started a business in 2020. You can understand what he went through with that. Dove right into an industry that he didn't know a ton about, learned as he went, drove through resilience and work ethic, and we'll learn about where he is today. But I'm excited about this because being in the event production industry myself, this is close to home. And I'm excited to learn from Anthony today.
Well, before we get into it, here comes the rain. Welcome back. We have Anthony Cortes, founder of Motion Flix. Anthony, welcome to the show, man. How you feeling today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Super excited to learn more about you and then Motion Flix and how you founded the company. But before we get into the nitty gritty, please tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and kind of how the idea came about.
Yeah, so I'm Anthony Cortes. I'm the founder of Motion Flix. And we came up with this kind of outdoor movie night concept in the middle of the pandemic as a way for people to gather safely in the outdoors with proper social distancing. And it was kind of like a temporary fix to getting people together. And then eventually it led to what it is now, which we do anywhere from 20 to 40 events a month, depending on the season and the location. And yeah, it's been a really fun experience.
All right, Anthony, let's dive into the nitty gritty stuff. We like to, everybody, what we post on LinkedIn and Instagram is all the positive stuff about business. But on this one, we want to learn a little bit about the challenges, the day to day, the nitty gritty, the 4 a.m. moments. And let's get into your storm. 2020, you started. It's obviously COVID pandemic. You get out there with an inflatable movie screen and you're like, let's freaking crush this. But what happened next?
Yeah, so we were, all excited. We thought this was a great idea for the time, and we get all of our equipment. We kind of run through everything in our backyard. With this business, you don't necessarily have like a home space, so we do the events for our friends, and we thought, let's do something for the neighborhood, a free movie night. So we set up the screen. We were all pumped for it. We were excited to take content. We were actually going to get a whole commercial kind of set up for social media, and everything started great. And then, it's Central Florida, so rain and weather is unpredictable. And then it started sprinkling, and we're like, okay, this isn't too bad. People can kind of like still hang out. It's probably just going to blow over. And then a fire started, a literal fire by the popcorn machine. And I had to put that out, and then we lost power. So I still remember like it was yesterday. We were showing Toy Story for the kids, and Woody and Buzz Lightyear being chased by a robot, and the screen is just deflating on top of the children. It was like the worst experience. And my jaw's open, and I'm just like, how do we not think about this? Like, obviously, if it does rain and the cables get wet, things that are now common sense to us. And in that moment, we just felt so defeated, and it was like everything just came crumbling because our hopes were to use this kind of as a promo for the neighborhood for people to have this in their backyards. So we started off, with a literal fire. that was kind of the also a little storm. So
That's crazy. We'll talk about first impressions, right? You think everything's going well, and then you just get hit with all of the sideways rain at once.
Literal.
You mentioned you mentioned we a lot in that statement, insinuating that you had a team that helped you put together this first event to kind of give back to the community. Can you tell us a little bit about how that core group came together and how you all kind of founded this idea and chose to take the leap? Because I know for some entrepreneurs, it's hard to actually take that step to do. one of your ideas and bring it to life. So curious to hear how you and your team got together and took that step to try this during 2020.
Yeah, definitely. So the team was just me and my business partner. So it was just us two, and it was just us two for a while. As we were kind of experimenting with the business and the equipment. Um, I can include my friends and family in that because they came and supported us throughout everything. They helped us put the fire out. So I would say our community they were definitely part of the team. But for a long time, it was just us two, and it was challenging. We had to encourage each other, and um, I had more experience in business, so for me, I've always been a risk taker, so it was a little easier for me to push through. Um, but my business partner was more on the tech side and technology side of things, so he was able to kind of come up with solutions, while I kept just kind of motivating us to keep going.
Anthony, in the pre-work that we did, I read about this event where you had this challenge and a literal fire, but you got your first client out of it. Tell me about that. How does that work? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was out of sympathy, to be honest, because there's no other thing I could think of. Um, but she hired us shortly after that. She had a backyard event that she wanted us to be a part of, and she was kind of one of our first clients in Orlando. And she's still our client today. She has us every year for her holiday movie nights in her backyard. Um, that first event with her went great. But yeah, so at least we got a client out of it. That was good.
That's amazing. And it's cool to get opportunities that come your way like that. I've learned that in entrepreneurship as well. And I like to say, I don't personally like to say no to any opportunity because I feel like every opportunity is a learning opportunity. Has there ever been a situation where you did say no, or do you have that same mindset where if something's new to you, you take that leap to just get the experience and see how it goes because you never know what comes out of it?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm just like that. I say yes to everything. My team doesn't love it sometimes, but we had a meeting yesterday with a client of ours that is in LA, and they're opening a new development in Chicago, and they're like, would you be interested in being next month? I don't have a team or anything there. I said yes, I'll make it happen. So yeah, I'm a believer in that as well. I take every opportunity I can get.
So you started in a backyard, but today you're in LA, San Diego, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Las Vegas. You're about to expand to New York, Dallas, Nashville. How? You did this in 5 years. How did you expand? And tell me a little bit about that process. Did it all come at once, or were you just incrementally growing?
Yeah, so we quickly made the move to LA as fast as possible. The weather in Orlando, that was just kind of like the perfect fit for us, and I think it will still always be our busiest market, just because they have the love for film there and the weather. And then so because we were able to do so many events, our first client was Soho House, which was a great introduction to the right people and even in the film industry. So that really helped us kind of get the right clients at the right time. And we were able to really get all the experience that we needed with all of those events. Another thing that I think that helped us grow fairly quickly is the investment side of things. A lot of people in the screen industry, the screen vendors, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their equipment, which is great because it's good quality. But what we found is it's at that point you'd have to have your price point has to be so high. You have to take care of this equipment. There's so much cost that comes with that. And we found, as technology gets better, it gets cheaper too. So we have been able to invest in equipment that's not that level of an expense, professionalism, but we were able to still provide a great viewing experience and meet people at their budgets. So that's allowed us, I guess, financially also to be able to invest and start these markets fairly quickly.
So you're riding the line between sort of an audiovisual provider, but also an experience designer and production company. Tell me about that journey. So, you started with one piece of equipment. As you grew, were you focusing more on the equipment side and scalability, or the customer service side and experience design?
Yeah, so that's a great question because what we found was the feedback that we got from other screen vendors. Um, they would say that they would come pop up a screen, leave, and come back and pack everything up. We go above and beyond for our clients from the beginning to the end. We do a walkthrough. We create renderings to see what everything would look like. We have the full service experience, popcorn service, seating. We really bring everything you can think of to these spaces. So I think we turned more into a customer service kind of business with a blow up screen. And I think that's what really set us apart in creating that relationship with the clients. That's been a big part of our growth.
Customer service is king. If you have great customer service, it will propel you in anything that you are trying to do as a service. So it's great to hear you share that. Um, as it relates to you scaling, I would assume you continue to get lots of positive feedback from your customers, your clients, and those in the community. How were you receiving that feedback? How were you measuring that feedback? How did you know that this event was successful? What metrics were you using to determine success as you continue to scale? Because once again, you scaled pretty fast, and I'm sure this was all new to you and your business partner. What kind of metrics were you guys looking at to justify the positive feedback?
Yeah, so we always follow up with the client to see what we did right, what we did wrong. We always try to keep it really transparent. Um, Also, a lot of times because of our clients, especially the developers and people that we work with in shopping plazas or in apartment buildings, they have these properties on a national level too. So when they refer us after an event to another city or another property, that kind of tells us that we did a good job. And also seeing the series that we have usually series in different locations. So sometimes it's every Friday, for example, Cortes Steps in LA or Manhattan Beach Village. We see that grow every time. The community, the people that come out to our movie nights, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's kind of been, some sort of feedback too, and see that people are actually interested in coming to our events. And then reviews also. I'm proud to say that we have 5-star reviews on Google, and I just make sure that I was
Nice.
communication with the client and making sure that we're meeting their expectations and we're meeting our own expectations.
So early in the process, as you're growing a company, a lot of times it's just elbow grease and leveraging your knowledge to make it happen, right? I'm assuming you were on the ground, you were running the projector, you were making sure things were running smoothly. At some point, from a lead gen perspective, you have to transition from word of mouth to some sort of engine. When did that happen for you, and did you run into any challenges in that process?
Yeah, so that has been a challenge, especially with the expansion. So I'm currently in Miami working on our expansion here, and there's definitely culturally there's so many differences between, let's say, Los Angeles and Miami. So our reach outs typically have been calling or emailing, trying to get the contact. LA, that works great. In Miami, it doesn't. They're more personal in person. So that's been a challenge because how do you scale when you have to be in person, or at least finding the right person that has the face and the personality that can help you, promote your business. Um, so I guess, yeah, to answer your question, that's been kind of how we normally reach out. Scale is just reaching out stuff, but it is different in every market.
Yeah. Curious, as we get into like the umbrella moment, we're past the initial, we're into the word of mouth phase, and you're building a business. Um, how did you? Because obviously you're not the only one in this space. You get in, you can make money, but now you want to grow and scale. I assume you leaned into a niche. Like, what niche did you lean into to differentiate yourselves from your competition?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that sets us apart is we customize everything. A lot of times, we do have a great presence on social media, but a lot of times these other competitors will have their logos on everything, on the screen, on the equipment. Um, and we do have that option, but we're able to customize everything to either the property or the client. We do stuff with Hulu and Netflix all the time, so we'll customize it to their wrapping. So that's been a big opportunity for us to set us apart. So even the popcorn buckets, everything will have the company or the client's information on it. And then also just getting really creative with relationships with sponsors. So I pretty much don't take no for an answer, especially if it's a public event and they can't do it, maybe because we're out of budget. I'll find sponsors for them. Whereas the other screen vendors kind of just focus on popping up a screen and deflating it, is from what I've seen. We kind of work as an event planner, as a promoter, as just so many different parts of not just the actual experience, but bringing it together and making it happen.
Wow. So you're actually
Don't.
helping your clients find sponsors to pay for the event and make money.
Yeah, so we've been able to do that. We are able to put commercials up on the screen before the movies, which is a great incentive. We customize things with QR codes to go, for example, like Ting, Spectrum. Those are great sponsors. So yeah, I really just try not to take no for an answer. I'll figure it out and I'll pop a screen wherever they'll let me pop a screen.
That's a hell of an evolution.
For sure. That's amazing. And the customer service still sounds top tier. So shout out to you and the team for the service that you guys are providing. One thing that you said that really stuck out to me was the customization aspect. And with customization, I know that brings a lot of back and forth, a lot of speaking with points of contacts at different companies, different planners, different property owners, you name it, right?
Yeah.
I can assume that those conversations take time. Sometimes they could take weeks, maybe months, right?
Yeah.
Did you anticipate that when you guys went into this business? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about your approach, how you handle these conversations? Because JR and I know this from our side of the business, it's hard to get to a signed contract, no matter how simple you think it may be. So if you could tell us a little bit about that aspect of your business, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. And you're totally right. It does take a ton of time between that, and even something as simple as choosing a movie takes a lot of back and forth. Like, is this a good choice? The customization part definitely takes time, making sure we have the right logo and it looks great and the approvals. So it does take time, and I did not anticipate that. I'm on my laptop 24/7, just handling things like that. Me and my area managers are. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes outside of the events, which is something I didn't expect as much. It is a full-time job aside from just even having events, just to manage that and the communication between the clients, sponsors, all of that.
Yeah.
I'm very curious because we run into this issue at 180 a lot is we customize every event as well. And one of the challenges of putting on bespoke events is it's hard to scale custom experiences. And so you have to systemize something without taking away that customization. Are you seeing the same challenges? And do you have a secret sauce you want to share?
Yeah, I do. And I think the biggest part with that is the expense side and the waste, I feel like, because if we're customizing a particular, let's say we did a premiere for a Netflix film, all of those things that we used for that we won't be able to use again, because it's like a one-time thing. But what I've been able to find certain companies that are on a national level, so that are able to print out, like, we use magnets for a lot of our stuff, which makes it easy to put things on and off, as far as logos and stuff like that. So I have found companies that are on a national level where the team can just pick it up at their local office. So we've kind of put systems in place like that to make it a little easier as wherever we are. We're thinking kind of large scale here. So we want to work with companies that are in all these large markets where the team can just pick it up on the way, or we can just send over, the sample to the particular place. So that's kind of how we're working it right now.
That's awesome. So I have to ask, it's just off the cuff, if you had to pick one event that you guys have done in the last 5 years to be your favorite event, what event would that be and why?
My favorite event, there's been a good amount of events. We did one for Remy, I believe is the name. He has a show on Hulu. It was a premiere, and that was one of our first premieres. And that was really fun to work with because we worked particularly with Disney. So seeing how they do things and how, they come with a briefcase with the film, and it's like a whole experience in itself just to see that. Because a lot of times we're premiering these movies before they come out, so there's a lot of protection there. So it did cause a lot of anxiety with our team, but it was just cool to see that and how, um, how they protect their work, and then seeing the people that were a part of the film, seeing their work on the big screen and seeing their faces light up. That was a really cool experience, and that was the first time that we did that. So that's definitely probably my most memorable one.
That's cool.
Going from like you said, a backyard to premieres, obviously, that gets complicated, and you talk about public versus private events. I assume there's a licensing component to all this to make sure that you're above board and you can show the stuff that you're showing in a public space. Tell me about navigating that. Was that a learn as you go scenario? Did you have contacts in the industry to help you navigate? How did you come through that moment?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the scarier kind of things to figure out, because of course we wanted to do things right, and we always had this vision of being on a national level, so we wanted to do things right from the beginning. So we work with a movie licensing company, pretty much exclusively for all of our events. And normally the client is the one that has to kind of have that licensing because it has to be connected to their address and everything like that. But we always facilitate it. We create, we start the conversation. So all of our events are licensed, and we have agreements in place to make sure that the licensing is purchased for the film. And then when we work with Hulu, Netflix, and Prime, because it is their work and it's their event, we don't really have to have licensing. It's all through them, which is kind of fun because we're trying to bring a cinematic experience to their originals since they don't have, any presence in theaters. But yeah, movie licensing is a big thing. I think it's something that people don't think about. A lot of these properties that we work with have what's called like an umbrella license. So any movie that they show, they kind of have like an umbrella licensing for. And then if you're in a backyard, licensing isn't required because it is your own private space. It's just like putting out a movie on a TV. So technically, in your backyard, movie licensing isn't required, but in all other areas, and there are a lot of gray areas, but we always try to do things right, with our agreements and making sure that licensing is always covered.
Yeah, same here. It gets, lots of gray area, even with music, just playing for walk in, walk out, that sort of stuff. I'm interested from a experience design perspective. You're in outdoor spaces. How are you navigating the audio portion of this to make sure that the end user or the viewer has a great experience, both visually, which I'm sure you're doing fantastically, and with the audio?
Yeah, so we have, depending on the space and how large it is, we do a lot of rooftops. So a lot of times those spaces are a little smaller. We want to have speakers throughout the whole area. Our speakers are pretty great. So even with one speaker, we're covering a large space. And then we also have headphones. So one of the things we ran into is a lot of these places are residential. So especially in the summer when the sunset is a lot later, that's kind of like a solution that we found, which isn't something new, but we have the silent experience, which is also really cool for people to have kind of like a social movie watching experience too, where you can have fun and talk without interrupting anyone. So they're just headphones, and it's a great option for our clients.
Awesome.
That's awesome. You mentioned earlier in our conversation social media, and I can imagine that for business like Motion Flix, seeing a visual really tells the end user or the client exactly what they're gonna get if they book you guys for business, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your social media strategy and how that impacted your scaling, if at all? Because we struggle sometimes with social media and how much effort we should put into it, how much we should invest in social media marketing, things of that nature. Just curious to hear your experience with social media and how it's positively affected the business.
Yeah, so it's a big part of our business. We before Motion Flix, I had salons, and social media was big for us back then too, obviously to show the work. But during that time, it was more posting 3 times a day. I remember we would require our stylists to post. Now it's more, at least for this type of business, I would say it's more quality over quantity. So we do include a videographer with drone footage for all of our event series to our clients. So if they book 4 or more events, they get a professional, pretty much commercial that's going to promote their series for the whole year. So we have an amazing videographer that helps us with that. And then what we do is we do a collaboration with that space or with that city. So if it's a city of Los Angeles, if it's a location, a hotel, and they collaborate with us on Instagram, and it's really helped to drive traffic to our Instagram. And then what's interesting too is we have kind of 2 types of customers. We have the client, which is the one that brings us on, and then the guest that usually it's free to them. So they're kind of our customer too. And then they follow us and they kind of rely on our social media to know where we're going to be next, what movie nights we have coming up, what movies we have coming up. And then that brings traffic to our clients too, because they're having people, guests from all over, just come to their spaces. So social media has been a huge thing for us, just to promote our events and what's coming.
It's amazing. You're getting it from both sides. I love it. You guys are killing it, man. Shout out to you and Motion Flix.
Thanks. We try. It's been fun.
So let's talk about clear skies. You've obviously come through this. You have a successful business that you're running, but everybody's looking to grow. And we talked a little bit about your expansion plans. What do clear skies look like for Motion Flix, and where do you see the company in another 5 years?
Yeah, so we have some clouds still every now and then, but I think that the biggest thing is making sure that we have these processes in place, because we've had everything happen, and making sure that we learn from them. And the plan, is to expand into all major cities, eventually internationally would be great. And I'm really passionate about young entrepreneurs and people that are just interested in having their own business. So my goal with Motion Flix is to be able to bring on operating partners in each market that are either inspired by film or just are interested in business. And we would make the investment, and then they would help us grow, and they would get a commission and a portion of that, ownership of a portion of that market. So that's what I'm most excited about, is getting to that point where we can have, operating partners that we can work with and help grow and teach them everything that we learned the hard way. And really, these things you can apply to any business, especially because we're dealing with technology and Mother Nature, with the most unpredictable things. And I feel like if you can handle that, you can do anything. So, in 5 years, I'd love to be maybe on an international level, and just having just great operating partners that help us grow, and we all grow together.
Well, as you get into international and multilingual environments, I have some contacts I could connect you with around live translation and stuff. That could be fun.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah, super excited to see your growth over the next few years. So we'll definitely be supporting in the background and keeping up with you guys.
Thank you.
JR, I think I'm ready for the lightning round.
Okay.
How are you feeling about that? You ready for that?
Yeah, let's get weird.
So Anthony, we do a segment at the end of every episode where we just rattle off a bunch of random questions that we just want to hear your answers to. So no rhyme or reason. We're just going to go back and forth and ask you a couple questions. So no pressure.
Let's do it.
I'll go first. What would you say is the most unique location that you've ever hosted a Motion Flix event?
Unique location. There's been a good amount of different locations. I would say we did a premiere for a Korean show, and it was at a restaurant, a Korean barbecue restaurant, and they had an outdoors area, and making the screen work in that area was really challenging. So just the production side of it was really difficult. But it was really cool because it was a Korean themed show, and then there was Korean barbecue. So it was kind of really fun. I'd say that was kind of unique.
Sweet.
Cool.
Speaking of food,
Yeah.
calories don't matter. You can be anywhere in the world. what would you have for breakfast?
So matter. I love Colombian breakfast. So normally they call it recalentado, which is like the food from the night before. So I love like a reheating moment. Having dinner for breakfast, I would say that's probably the best.
We have this tradition around Thanksgiving, which is kind of gross, but we have pumpkin pie, but then we'll eat pumpkin pie for breakfast the next day. So I get that feeling.
I love it. That's exactly it. That's pretty much the same thing. Yeah.
It's funny. I like to ask all of our guests this question because a lot of our guests travel a lot. They're going from city to city to meet with clients, have negotiations, things of that nature. What are some travel tips for the airport, Ubering, you name it? What are some travel tips that you could share that you use in your day-to-day when you travel? Because it sounds like you do travel from city to city a lot.
I would say keep your laptop. Don't. I've left my laptop at so many places in the airport, so definitely have something that's just like strapped to you. Because I'm always working, especially when I travel. I just enjoy it, like just having a drink or something and working at the bar. But I would say keep your laptop close or have some sort of tracking device on it. And then yeah, the Uber situation, figuring out the airport, because a lot of airports don't have Ubers coming to pick you up close by. So that's good to have. That's good to know ahead of time so you're not stressed in the moment.
Yeah, that's definitely.
All right, last one for me. Do you have a favorite book, resource, or experience that influenced your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, there's a story. It's on a podcast. How I built this. I don't know if you guys have heard of that
Yeah.
podcast, but that's one of my favorite podcasts. So I listen to that a lot just to give me inspiration. When you're your own boss, you have to seek that elsewhere. So that's definitely one of my tools. And there's a specific story of Tate's cookies, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with those cookies, but they're like in a grain like bag.
Yeah.
Um, that story is really inspiring. And I think about it all the time, and I always tell my team about it and people that I've mentored. And if she just started on the side of the road selling cookies from a Nabisco box recipe, and she just believed in her cookies and she kept going and she sold it for $500 million. The company. So I always go back to that story when I'm having a tough time.
That's awesome. Last question for me. We live in a world of AI now, as I'm sure you know. Do you use AI in your day to day? And if so, what are some of the ways that you use it and that it is helpful to you in your day to day?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I use it just with emails, and then I have to go in and take off the dashes and all of that to make sure it doesn't look like AI. So that's
Yeah.
the simplest way, I use it. But then we've used it for inspo. So if we're doing an event, like with Hulu, or that there's a theme to it, AI will help us kind of build what that would look like, and even with the images and everything. So we definitely use it for inspo, and it's been really helpful coming up with really creative ideas quickly, for our events.
That's awesome. Anthony, I feel like we could talk to you all day. You have so much insight, experience, and your trajectory is just, it's beautiful to see. Anything you want to share with the listeners as it relates to any upcoming events, any releases that you want to give a teaser about, anything you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, so they can visit us at motion.flix on Instagram. We post all of our upcoming events, our scheduling. This time of the year is kind of our slow season because of weather everywhere. We mentioned earlier that it's cold pretty much everywhere. Um, and that's a great place to kind of see what we have going on. And then eventually, once we have these premieres with Hulu and Netflix, we're hoping to do that for the public as well. So we'll have all that listed on our social media as well.
Awesome. Don't let the weather scare you. I could see a cool Hulu Fargo premiere here on a lake that's frozen. Like, make that happen. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be so cool. Okay, that would definitely top the best event.
I have one more thing. There's tons of entrepreneurs out there. Everybody's going through their sideways rain. Is there any advice you would give them when they're in that moment, when they're getting beat up, when they're soaking wet from that sideways rain, so they persevere?
Yeah, I would say believe it. As corny as it sounds, believe in yourself and believe in your business. You have to be your number one fan. You're gonna have friends, people that are close to you that are gonna doubt your business, not because it comes from a malicious place, but they just don't see the vision as clear as you do. So always trust yourself that you have, you have what it takes. And then if you feel like defeated, definitely listen to podcasts like this podcast or any podcasts that are about entrepreneurs, just to get that motivation is really important, because you're not getting that from someone above you, when you're your own boss. So definitely just believe in yourself, listen to your gut, and then yeah, you could, if someone can sell cookies on the side of the road and sell it for $500 million, you can do anything.
Yeah, keep hustling no matter what they say. I think Alex Hormozy says, when you're first starting out, people will say, "Why are you working so hard?" And then when you succeed, they'll say, "Do you know how lucky you got?" And I say, just keep hustling. Don't worry about the noise.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true.
Anthony Cortes, ladies and gentlemen, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thanks, Anthony. Chris, another great episode. Anthony, I love this space, just event production. And when we started, I met Anthony 40 minutes ago. I didn't realize how close he was. He's not just putting on movies outside. He's designing experiences, and he's a production company, and he's an ad agency, and he's a promoter. And there's so many layers to this thing that were so cool to unwrap. So hopefully the audience got a lot out of that. You can start one way, but I think the message here is adaptability. And ability to change your business plan based on where you're going. So I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and never say no. Opportunities will come your way. They may be new, they may be unique, but they're learning experiences. And Anthony and Motion Flix is proof of that. You accept the opportunities, you learn, you scale, you grow, and you never know what those opportunities bring. So super excited to have Anthony join us today. And until next time.
Backyard test run, pandemic summer heat, inflatable screen, and a neighborhood seat. Toy Story rolling, kids laughing in the dark. Then Florida clouds made a hard left turn spark. Popcorn fire, power gone, cable soaked through. Screen starts falling, like, well, what do we do? Jaw on the floor, but we didn't fold. Just learned it fast and got back on the road. Sideways rain, still we show up. Keep the picture steady when the wind kicks up. From a backyard to a big city lights. We don't quit, we build it right. Roll film, take the hit, keep moving. That's the whole thing, that's the proving. We said yes early, said yes too much. No team in town, but we'll make it clutch. LA to Miami, different rules, different pace. Sometimes you gotta win it face to face.